Have you ever felt as though time has accelerated, that the events of the world are unfolding according to a script written long ago? Have you witnessed the great edifice of modern certitude, the cold and sterile palace of scientific reason, stand baffled and mute before a simple cloak of cactus fiber? We live in an age that worships data, an era that trusts only what can be measured, quantified, and replicated in a laboratory. Yet, for nearly 5 centuries, a fragile garment woven by humble hands has posed a silent, powerful question that this age cannot answer. It hangs in a basilica in Mexico City, a testament not to human ingenuity, but to a divine encounter that shattered the calculus of the possible and impossible. This is not merely a story of an ancient artifact. It is a living prophecy, a signpost for our turbulent times. We are told to trust the experts, to believe in the inexorable march of progress that will eventually explain all mysteries. But what happens when the mystery deepens with every inquiry? What are we to think when Nobel Prize-winning chemists analyze its pigments and find no earthly origin, when ophthalmologists examine its eyes and find reflections that defy the laws of optics, when textile experts confess that the very fabric should have crumbled to dust 400 years ago? The world of science, in its pride, seeks to dissect and categorize, to reduce the sacred to a series of chemical reactions and artistic techniques. But in the face of the Tilma of St. Juan Diego, it finds its instruments blunt, its theories wanting. It fails. And its failure is the beginning of our understanding. In this shared reflection, we shall not seek to argue with the skeptics on their own narrow terms. We will not lose ourselves in the minutiae of chromatic analysis or polymer degradation. Instead, we shall walk the path of the ancient prophecies and the revelations approved by the Holy Mother Church to uncover the hidden meaning of the signs God places in our path. We will journey from the apocalyptic visions of St. John to the hallowed grounds of Tepeyac Hill to understand why heaven chose to leave an indelible photograph, an akiropoietos, an image not made by human hands, as a message for an age that would come to believe it had no need of God. This is a journey into the heart of a miracle that is not confined to the past, but which speaks with urgent clarity to the spiritual crisis of our present moment. This is the story of why the most advanced science of our time kneels, knowingly or not, before the inexplicable truth of the divine. The Holy Scriptures, from Genesis to the Apocalypse, are a grand tapestry of God's intervention in human history. He does not remain a distant, abstract clockmaker, but enters into the fabric of our existence with signs and wonders. The prophets of old were not merely foretellers of future events. They were interpreters of the divine language written into the very heart of creation and the unfolding of history. The Lord speaks through the burning bush to Moses, through the pillar of fire that guides the Israelites, through the star that leads the Magi to the infant king. These are not arbitrary displays of power. They are accommodations to our human frailty, tangible proofs of an invisible reality, anchors for our faith in a sea of doubt. The Apostle Paul, in his second letter to the Thessalonians, speaks of a great apostasy, a falling away from the faith that would precede the end times. He warns of a mystery of iniquity already at work, a spirit of lawlessness that would seek to enthrone man in the place of God. In such a time, should we not expect God, in His infinite mercy, to provide a sign so powerful, so enduring, that it could serve as a fortress for the faithful against the rising tide of disbelief? This expectation is not a novel fancy. It is deeply embedded in the tradition of the Church. The great doctors and saints have always understood that God provides extraordinary graces for extraordinary times of trial. St. Augustine, in his City of God, reflects on how miracles serve to confirm the truth of the gospel against the claims of paganism. St. Thomas Aquinas teaches that a miracle is an event that surpasses the productive power of created nature. It is a direct act of God that serves to manifest His glory and confirm the truth of His revelation. These theological giants provide us with the lens through which to view such phenomena. We are not to be credulous fools chasing after every claimed apparition. The Church, in her wisdom, is profoundly cautious, but neither are we to be cynical rationalists, dismissing out of hand the very possibility that the Creator might choose to intervene in His creation. The approved Marian apparitions of the modern era stand as luminous examples of this divine pedagogy. In La Salette, Our Lady appeared weeping, warning of the spiritual decay of France and the clergy. In Fatima, she revealed a chilling vision of hell and gave a peace plan from heaven, the daily rosary and devotion to her Immaculate Heart, as the remedy for the errors of Russia that would spread throughout the world. These apparitions are not disconnected events. They are echoes of the gospel, urgent maternal pleas for conversion, strategically placed by heaven at critical junctures in human history. And if La Salette was a warning to a Europe falling into secularism, and Fatima a warning against the atheistic materialism of the 20th century, then what of Guadalupe? What was the crisis that demanded such an unprecedented miracle, not a fleeting vision, but a permanent, self-sustaining artifact? The miracle of Guadalupe occurred at the dawn of the modern age, at the very moment when the old world was giving way to the new. It was a time of violent collision between cultures, the bloody conquest of the New World, and the schism of the Protestant Reformation that was tearing Christendom apart in the Old. The Aztec Empire, a civilization steeped in a brutal religion of human sacrifice, had been vanquished. The Spanish missionaries, despite their zeal, struggled to evangelize a people traumatized by conquest and attached to their ancient deities. It was into this chaos, this abyss of despair and confusion, that the Mother of God descended. She appeared not to a king or a bishop, but to a humble Aztec convert, a widower named Juan Diego. She spoke to him in his native Nahuatl tongue, calling him Juanito, Juan Dieguito, the smallest of my children. Her message was one of exquisite tenderness and maternal love. Am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my shadow and protection? Am I not the source of your joy? Are you not in the hollow of my mantle, in the crossing of my arms? She sent him to the bishop with a request to build a church on Tepeyac Hill, a place that had once been a center for the worship of the pagan mother goddess, Tonantzin. She was claiming the ground for her son. The bishop prudently demanded a sign, and what a sign she provided. She instructed Juan Diego to climb the barren, frozen hill in December and gather flowers. There he found a profusion of Castilian roses, flowers not native to Mexico and impossibly out of season. He gathered them into his tilma, a rough cloak woven from the fibers of the maguey cactus. When he returned and unfurled his cloak before Bishop Zumaraga, the roses tumbled to the floor, and there, imprinted on the cactus fibers, was the luminous image of the Virgin. This is where the human narrative ends and the divine mystery begins. For the image that appeared on that tilma is not a painting. Modern science, with all its sophisticated tools, has approached this humble fabric, expecting to unmask a pious fraud, and has instead been forced into a stunned silence. The first miracle is the tilma itself. Maguey fiber is a notoriously perishable material. Under normal conditions, it should have disintegrated into dust within 20 to 30 years. Yet, for nearly 500 years, exposed to the smoke of candles, the humidity, the salty air of the lake that once surrounded Mexico City, and the touch of millions of devotees, it has remained inexplicably preserved. In 1785, nitric acid was accidentally spilled on the image. It should have eaten through the fabric in seconds. Instead, the image and the cloth regenerated over time, leaving only a faint stain as a witness to the event. In 1921, during a period of fierce anti-clerical persecution, a bomb was hidden in a floral arrangement at the base of the Tilma. The explosion destroyed the marble altar, twisted a heavy bronze crucifix, and shattered windows throughout the basilica, but the Tilma and its protective glass were completely unharmed. Then there is the image itself. Investigations using infrared photography, beginning with the studies of Philip Callahan and Jody Smith in 1979, revealed that there is no undersketching, no preliminary drawing of the kind any artist would require to produce such a masterpiece, especially on a coarse, unprepared surface. Furthermore, the coloration is baffling. In 1936, the Nobel Prize-winning chemist Richard Kuhn analyzed fibers from the image and concluded that the pigments were of no known mineral, vegetable, or animal origin. They were not paints. The image seems to be part of the very fibers of the cloth, yet it does not saturate them. In some areas, the colors appear to hover fractions of a millimeter above the weave, a phenomenon for which there is no natural explanation. The techniques used to achieve the image's depth, translucence, and iridescence, where the colors shift with the viewing angle like the wings of a butterfly, were utterly unknown to 16th century artists, and indeed cannot be perfectly replicated even today. Perhaps the most astonishing discovery lies within the eyes of the Virgin. Though only about 7 to 8 millimeters in size, the eyes of the image contain a level of detail impossible for a human artist to have produced. In 1929, a photographer first noticed the reflection of a man's bust in the right eye. Decades later, with the advent of digital technology, the engineer Dr. José Tunzman performed a meticulous analysis. Magnifying the eyes 2,500 times, he discovered not just one, but a group of 13 distinct figures reflected in both corneas, with the proper distortion and placement that the laws of optical physics, the Purkinje-Sanson effect, would demand from a living eye. The scene reflected is believed to be the very moment Juan Diego unfurled the tilma before Bishop Zumarraga and the others present. We see the bishop, his interpreter, Juan Diego himself, and even a family group. To suggest that a 16th century artist, working on a rough cactus cloth, could have painted microscopic figures inside the eyes of his subject, figures that would not be discovered for over 400 years until the invention of high-powered magnification, is to propose a miracle of human genius far more incredible than the divine one. Faced with this cascade of inexplicable phenomena, the secular world offers weak and contradictory rebuttals. They propose it was painted by a gifted Aztec artist, Marcos Sipac de Aquino, yet they cannot explain his materials, his techniques, or the longevity of his work. They dismiss the figures in the eyes as mere pareidolia, the psychological tendency to see patterns in random data, yet they cannot account for the precise optical consistency of the reflections in both eyes. Their explanations raise more questions than they answer. And this is the spiritual core of the matter. The failure of science to understand the divine origin of the image is not a weakness of the miracle. It is a central feature of its message. It is a sign for a proud, rationalistic age. It is God telling us that there are realities that transcend our microscopes and our spectrographs. It is the Mother of God, leaving a permanent calling card that says, "Your reason is a gift, but it is not your God. Your science can explore my creation, but it cannot explain the Creator." This miraculous image, then, is a deep well of spiritual truth. For the Aztecs, it was a catechesis in itself. They saw a woman who was greater than their sun god. She stands before the sun, blocking its rays, and their moon god, she stands upon the crescent moon. Yet she was not a god herself, for her head is bowed in prayer and her hands are joined in supplication to one greater than her. The black sash around her waist was their cultural sign for pregnancy. She was bringing a new life, a new god. The turquoise mantle was the color of royalty, and the stars upon it corresponded to the exact configuration of the constellations in the sky over Mexico City on that winter solstice morning of December 12th, 1531. She was the Queen of Heaven, bringing the true God into their world. The result was the greatest and most rapid mass conversion in the history of the Church, as millions of Aztecs turned away from their bloody idols and embraced the faith. And for us today, what is the message? We live in a world where the family is under attack, yet the central reflection in the Virgin's eyes is that of a family. We live in a culture that devalues and destroys unborn life, yet she presents herself as the protector of the unborn, the black sash of pregnancy, a prominent and holy sign. We live in an age of profound division, racial, political, and ecclesiastical, and she appears as a mestiza, her features a blend of European and indigenous, a symbol of unity and reconciliation. Her image is a sacramental, a tangible link to the divine, a perpetual fountain of grace. The constant temperature of the Tilma, which has been measured to be that of a living human body, 98.6 degrees to 37 degrees, is a constant reminder that she is not a distant historical figure, but a living, present mother. The faint heartbeat detected by a gynecologist using a stethoscope near the womb of the image speaks of the incarnate word she carries within her. She is a fortress against the great apostasy, a refuge in the storm, the woman of the apocalypse clothed with the sun, doing battle with the ancient dragon. We are called not merely to admire this miracle, but to enter into its mystery. We are called to live the message of conversion, prayer, and trust that she embodies. The rosary is the weapon she gives us. The sacraments are the nourishment, and her immaculate heart is the sure refuge. We have journeyed from the prophecies of Scripture to the barren hill of Tepeyac, and we have seen how God, in His infinite wisdom, has left a sign for our times that confounds the wise and humbles the proud. The miraculous image of Our Lady of Guadalupe is not a puzzle to be solved by science, but a divine love letter to be read with the heart. It is the story of God's victory over the darkness of idolatry and the dawn of faith in a new world. It is a testament to the fact that even in our age of iron and silicon, of cold reason and colder hearts, heaven has not abandoned us. The dark night of apostasy may be upon us, but the aurora of the victory of Christ and the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Maria de Guadalupe is certain. The final message is never fear, but the joyful preparation of the vigilant servant who awaits the Master's return. If this reflection has touched your heart and strengthened your faith, subscribe to this channel so that we may continue this pilgrimage together through the signs of the times. Let our community grow in prayer and watchfulness. Share this message with your loved ones, with those you hold dear, because in these times, sharing the truth is one of the greatest acts of mercy. May God bless you, and may the Immaculate Heart of Mary protect you. Remain with God. Titulo: The Miraculous Image of Guadalupe. Why modern science fails to understand its divine origin. ID Categoria 22. Thumb: Guadalupe. Tilma: The Divine Image. Science cannot explain. Descricao. For nearly 500 years, the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe on the tilma of St. Juan Diego has defied scientific explanation. Nobel Prize-winning chemists find no earthly pigments. Ophthalmologists discover optically impossible reflections in her eyes, and the cactus-fiber cloth itself has miraculously survived acid spills and bomb blasts. This is not just an ancient painting, it is a living sign for our times, a divine message that challenges the very foundations of modern scientific materialism. Journey with us as we explore the profound biblical and theological meaning behind this enduring miracle and uncover why its very inexplicability is a powerful message of hope and faith for a world that has forgotten God. If this message has fortified your spirit, join our community of watchers by subscribing and share this truth with those seeking answers in these confusing times, for this is a vital act of spiritual charity. Our Lady of Guadalupe, your Catholic, sure miracle, your supernatural, faith and science, Marian apparition, Juan Diego, your Tilma, unexplained mysteries, Catholic faith, your Virgin Mary, Christianity, prophecy, end times, Catholic Church, in divine mercy, Immaculate Heart, Tepeyac, Mexico, miracles of God, apologetics, spiritual warfare, hope, conversion, prompt. An ultra-realistic cinematic portrayal of the miraculous Tilma of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The image should be a close-up, focusing on the serene and compassionate face of the Virgin. Her mestiza features are rendered with hyper-realistic detail, and her downcast eyes have a visible, subtle reflection of a room with human figures, evoking the microscopic images found in the real Tilma. The texture of the rough woven maguey fiber of the cloak is highly detailed and tangible. The image is bathed in a soft divine light that seems to emanate from the figure herself, with the golden rays of the sun behind her creating a luminous, ethereal aura. The colors of her rose tunic and turquoise mantle are vibrant yet ancient. The mood is one of profound reverence, mystery, and divine intervention. This is not a flat painting, but a living image imbued with supernatural reality, captured with the dramatic lighting and depth of a Caravaggio painting.